Breaking news as we come on the air, the critical votes happening right now to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. House lawmakers voting to end the stalemate after 43 days, after a faction of Democratic senators broke from their party to side with Republicans. How long will it take for federal workers to get paid and for air travel to get back to normal? Also breaking tonight, Epstein email bombshell. Tens of thousands of documents released for the first time. The emails from Epstein alleging that President Trump, quote, knew about the girls and once spent hours with an alleged victim. New questions about the extent of their relationship and how the White House is firing back tonight. Video of a Turkish military plane free-falling before crashing. What sent it spiraling out of control? The TikTok influencer ordered to pay more than $1 million over an affair that ended a marriage. The law that made it possible to sue for infidelity. Early checkout guests evicted mid-stay after a hotel chain abruptly goes out of business. We hear from travelers left stranded and employees caught off guard. And the stunning and rare light show dazzling the night sky. Millions catching a glimpse of the northern lights as far south as Florida, where you might be able to see them again tonight. Plus, the big change for change. The final penny minted today. Why the 1-cent coin is gone for good. Top story starts right now. And good evening. Breaking news tonight as we come on the air. A vote in the House of Representatives to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. You're looking live at the floor of the House as they prepare to start the vote. Republicans believe they will hit the magic number, 217. For this bill to clear Congress. It comes after that surprise deal in the Senate, a splinter group of Democrats breaking with party leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to cut a deal with Republicans. This bill would restore pay to millions of federal workers who have either been furloughed or forced to work without pay. But officials warn those travel delays that have gripped the nation will take time to fully resolve. Once passed tonight, the bill heads to President Trump's desk with his signature. The shutdown is over, handing Trump a major political win. But just as he was getting ready to celebrate, the story that has haunted his second term returning again. Breaking updates in the saga of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A trove of new documents, roughly 20,000 pages, released today by members of the House Oversight Committee after they were subpoenaed from the Epstein's estate. House Democrats releasing 3 emails that mention the president. Until now, never before seen by the public. In one allegedly sent to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2011. Epstein writes that Trump, quote, spent hours at Epstein's house with an alleged victim. In another, from 2019, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly wrote about Donald Trump saying, quote, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Through the specifics of what he's referencing are unclear, though. Republicans are now saying those emails were cherry-picked. And the White House tonight pushing back hard as well, saying they don't prove Trump did anything wrong. Trump has never been accused of wrongdoing related to Epstein, and the fact that they were seen together is not itself evidence of a crime. We will have much more on these new disclosures in a moment, but we begin tonight with that vote to end the shutdown. Ryan Nobles is live tonight for us on Capitol Hill. Hey, Ryan, where does it stand right now?
Right now, the House is voting on this bill, or they're preparing to vote on this bill, I should say. It is set to begin any time now. And as soon as that bill crosses the finish line, it will then be sent to President Trump's desk to be signed into law. And that would bring the government shutdown to an end.
And then even with the deal, we could be back in a similar situation in just a matter of weeks?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tom. As we know, this bill only funds portions of the government. And in fact, it funds all of the government through the end of January. It does fund certain parts of the government through the end of September, but the vast majority of the government would only be funded through January. So that would mean that they would be forced to deal with a lot of different issues that are still unresolved, and that Republicans and Democrats would have to come together to try and get to that common ground. Issues like, for instance, funding of the Pentagon's budget. So there is still a very good chance, given especially how divided the two parties are right now, that we are right back in this same situation in just a couple of months at the end of January. Tom.
What a headache. All right, Ryan, we thank you for that. I know you'll be standing by for us for that vote. Now to our other top headline tonight, those Epstein documents just released by members of Congress, including emails from Epstein himself that named President Trump. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has that part of the story tonight.
Tonight, the White House is pushing back after House Democrats released emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, putting new scrutiny on President Trump's relationship with the late convicted sex offender.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
In 2011, 4 years before Trump announced his run for the presidency, Epstein emailed his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted name spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." The White House says the redacted name is Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent accusers. Giuffre, who died by suicide earlier this year, never accused Trump of wrongdoing, writing in her memoir Trump couldn't have been friendlier.
It is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign.
In another newly released email after Epstein was indicted on sex trafficking charges, he wrote this about Trump in 2019. Of course he knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine to stop. The president has said he broke with Epstein years before Epstein got into legal trouble and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when Epstein started taking club employees to work for him, including Giuffre.
He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us.
And now Republicans also releasing 20,000 pages of documents. In one email, Epstein, after former Trump fixer Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to violating campaign finance laws, wrote, "I know how dirty Donald is." Trump has never been accused of any wrongdoing linked to Epstein. The administration now facing growing bipartisan pressure, with a new Democrat sworn in today becoming the critical 218th signature to force a House vote to release all of the DOJ's Epstein files.
I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files. Justice cannot wait another day.
Let's pick it up right there, Gabe, as you join us live from the White House tonight. When's the earliest we could see Congress hold a vote on releasing the Epstein files?
Well, Tom, the earliest in the House would likely be in the first week of December. Now, if it passes, it would then go to the Senate, where it is likely to fail. Still, the president has been ramping up pressure on Republicans. Top administration officials even met today here in the Situation Room with GOP Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who had signed that petition, Tom.
Yeah, and then what's the issue with the clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell? The White House also responding to these questions?
Yeah, that's right. That came up in the briefing room today. White House officials have repeatedly said that that's not something the president is thinking about. Now, the president himself several times has said that he could grant clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell if he wanted to, but that's not something that he's been asked. And once again, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today saying it really hasn't even come up. Still, though, it's been raised over and over again, and this issue continues to dog the Trump administration, even as it tries to highlight its economic agenda and other parts of the administration's agenda. Right now, it's trying to, as I mentioned, ramp up that pressure campaign against Republicans, urging them to drop the issue, Tom.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, we thank you. I want to bring in NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett and senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson. I thank you both for being here. Hallie, I'm going to start with you first. We're 10 months into President Trump's second term, and Republicans have been with him on pretty much every issue, but there's been a real split on this, the Epstein files and the GOP.
You can say, Tom, that the president has an iron-fisted grip on his party, but this is the exception to that rule here. You have seen that pressure come not just on Capitol Hill, but also from his own base, like voters out there across the country. You start with what's happening on the Hill. You just heard Gabe describe that pushback from at least a handful of Republicans who are joining with Dems to try to force the release of the Epstein files in this vote here. But you also look at some of the polling on this, Tom. Inside the Republican Party, a majority of those voters do not approve of how the president has handled the Epstein case and the situation. You see it here among Republicans, that red number below 50%. We don't see that on other issues. That's not where he is on like the economy, on immigration, et cetera. This is, at least in the polling that we've seen, among his lowest, if not the lowest number. But I'll tell you this, most Americans, about 3 in 4 Americans, want to see those files released. And that includes many of the survivors that we've spoken with too, Tom.
All right, Laura, I do want to ask you, since President Trump became president the first time, he has been in and out of court. He has been sued. He's been indicted. Viewers at home may say, okay, is there any legal exposure here, civilly or criminally, for the president with these new emails?
I don't think these documents change sort of his exposure profile, if you will, Tom, because there's nothing directly connecting him to any crime. Even him saying, even Epstein saying in here, he knew about the girls. Does that mean he knew about what Epstein was doing with the girls, what Trump was doing? It's just not clear. And so I don't think it does anything to directly tie him to any wrongdoing.
From what we've seen so far, not enough there.
I think that that's right. And he's obviously maintained that he didn't do anything something wrong.
Yeah. And Hallie, you've done a lot of reporting with the families of some of these victims here. A lot of the pressure to release the DOJ files has come from Epstein survivors, but also their families.
Yeah, they're super laser focused on this, Tom. Again and again in our conversations, in public appearances that some of these survivors have made, they've said they want transparency, that is their primary objective here. They want the focus to be survivor-centered in these conversations, and they want to see some degree of accountability. They want the president essentially to make good on something he suggested he would do on the campaign trail, which is potentially release those Epstein case files. There's also this point, and you asked Gabe about this, on clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, some sort of leniency here. And it is correct that the White House says the president is not thinking about it. But when he has been asked, he has not definitively said, no, he wouldn't do it. And I'll tell you, I asked one of the relatives of Virginia Roberts Giuffre about this, what goes through her mind when she sees the president respond in this way. And she said to me, what goes through his mind? What reason could he possibly have for not ruling that out? Why would you even consider leniency for somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell? The president has been asked this. But again, I think that some of these survivors want to see something far more definitive from him on that, Tom.
And Laura, if you were representing Ghislaine Maxwell or working with the legal team and you saw these emails come out, does this hurt her case for clemency, or does it help her? It has no effect. I
think it makes it more complicated. At least it is at least in direct conflict with what she told the Deputy Attorney General, that she never saw anything, having to do with President Trump. Well, these emails suggest a different story. But again, who's going to prosecute her for that? Not this DOJ, right? And I think the more that the president doubles down on this issue as it relates to Maxwell, the more attention it brings. And so why grant her clemency? Why grant her a pardon? Why commute her sentence when it just keeps bringing this issue back up?
And Hallie, that discharge petition may have 218 signatures now, but it still has a difficult road ahead, correct?
Oh, yeah. It may have an easy road in the House, Tom. It may end up sailing through. You've heard the suggestion that perhaps it's going to be way more than just those 4 Republicans to join with Democrats on that vote here. But you then look at the Senate. I think the conventional wisdom is that it's not going anywhere in the Senate, that the Senate top Republican there, would not even bring that to a vote. There's not a mechanism that would force it to the degree that you see that on the House side. And then, of course, if it even does get through Congress and it's not a veto-proof majority, which it looks very unlikely to be, the White House would be able to veto it. The president would be able to do that. And I just don't know that there's a world where that wouldn't happen. I will tell you this piece of late-breaking news. I just was texting with our House producer there, and it sounds like that vote may happen as early as next week, according to Kyle Stewart and Mel Zanona on our Hill team, Tom. So lots to watch over the course of the next 7 days or so.
Yeah, and we're talking about an Epstein vote, because we're also waiting on another vote.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just hope it's not that vote.
Right.
Laura, before you go, there are still thousands of documents that the DOJ has. I asked you about the president's legal exposure. Does he have any legal power? Can he block these documents from being released?
I don't see how he would have the grounds to do that, right? They're the documents that reside with the Epstein estate. He might have a stay over the documents that reside with the Justice Department, but it then complicates him politically. Why are you intervening to stop the documents from coming out? I think that's a hard question for him to answer politically, Tom. But legally, I also just don't think that he has any grounds to stop these things from coming out.
Laura Jarrett, Hallie Jackson, we thank you so much for being here tonight. Tonight, millions of Americans still feeling the impact of that shutdown, from federal workers going without paychecks to flyers facing mass cancellations and delays. Now the question is, how quickly can things return to normal? Here's Tom Costello.
From airport control towers to checkpoints and terminals to food banks, millions of Americans are keeping a wary eye on Congress.
I think it's horrible how politicians, all of them, use us as pawns and, bargaining chips. That's all it is. That's all we are.
Again today, the FAA trimmed 6% of commercial flights, citing a shortage of controllers after 2 missed paychecks. Passengers again stuck or delayed.
People can't travel for work, for family, for other events.
Many families, including those missing SNAP benefits, have turned to food banks, with many of those running low.
I'm actually quite worried about these subsequent weeks, that will we have to turn away people just because we cannot serve that many who are going to come out for food.
Furloughed IRS worker Daniel Sharpenberg, a single dad, hopes he's back to work on Monday.
I'm left feeling like, what was this all for, right? We suffered all this time. What was this all for?
Back at the nation's airports, the Trump administration has warned Thanksgiving travel could be jeopardized if the government remains closed. Airlines say they could be back to a full schedule within days once the FAA lifts the flight cancellations.
I think you'll be back to normal, as close to normal as you can get by Friday, Saturday, yeah. And so we're counting on Congress doing their job and making that happen, but Thanksgiving will be fine.
All right, with that, Tom joins us live from Reagan National Airport tonight. Tom, it's been another rough day at the airports. We've been asking you this for weeks.
Yeah.
What does it look like tonight? Do you see it getting any better tomorrow?
Yeah, well, here, first of all, we have had an improving trend over the last few days with more air traffic controllers showing up and in their facilities. We had, I'm looking at my computer, 2,000 flight delays nationwide today, 904 canceled flights, and for tomorrow already, 860 flights canceled. But the FAA is proactively trimming 8% of the flights as it tries to relieve the stress on air traffic control facilities during the shutdown, with controllers having lost 2 paychecks. So the question is going to be, how quickly might the FAA give the green light if, in fact, we do have Congress deciding to reopen the government tonight, Tom?
All right, Tom Costello for us at the airport once again. Tom, thank you. We're going to move to a story we've been covering here for a while, the sudden disappearance of 9-year-old Melody Buzzard, who has been missing for more than a month now. Her mom appearing in court today after being arrested on unrelated charges, and there's a new development. NBC Steve Patterson has the latest.
Tonight, 40-year-old Ashley Buzzard appearing before a judge, all while a blistering multi-state manhunt for her missing daughter moves forward.
What answer the not guilty plea?
Today, Buzzard pleading not guilty to 1 charge of felony false imprisonment, a judge releasing her with a GPS monitor.
You're released on supervised release.
The charge unrelated to Melody's disappearance. The accuser in Buzzard's case, Tyler Brewer, says he's known Ashley for years and went to her home to help with the search. When he tried to leave, he says Buzzard threatened and held him against his will. In a now deleted social media post, he wrote, Miss Buzzard became visibly distressed after sharing information she appeared to regret disclosing. A box cutter was produced, and despite multiple requests to be allowed to exit the home, I was not immediately permitted to leave. Authorities arrested Buzzard Friday. Her daughter now missing for more than a month.
Investigators are continuing to reach out to Ashley to try to give her every opportunity that we can for her to let us know where Melody is.
Has her cooperation with the investigation changed at all since she's been in custody?
Her cooperation has not changed.
Surveillance video shows Ashley with her daughter in disguise, both appearing to be wearing wigs. The pair seen in a white Chevy Malibu on October 7th. The rental car's license plate swapped during the trip. Melody was last seen on October 9th, spotted near the Utah-Colorado border, as investigators say they're committed to bringing her home.
All right, Steve joins us tonight. Steve, we're still wondering what happened to that beautiful little girl, but if convicted, the mother here, what could the punishment be like?
Yeah, Tom, legal experts say she could be facing up to 3 years in prison. Again, she was released today. You heard the judge there with that GPS device. Is looking now at a second court date for a pretrial hearing as early as next week. I asked today the Sheriff's Department if they learned anything from Ashley about her missing daughter while she was in custody. They said they tried, but they're still trying to get her to cooperate. Tom?
Okay, Steve Patterson for us. Steve, thank you. We are back in a moment with the TikTok star ordered to pay more than $1 million for destroying her manager's marriage, the little-known law at the center of the heated legal battle. And a member of one of America's most famous political families now launching a bid for Congress. How JFK's grandson is looking to shake up Washington, and the incredible scenes in the sky, the Northern Lights putting on a show across the country, where you might be able to catch the stunning display tonight. Stay with us. We're back now with a case out of North Carolina where a jury ordered a woman to pay more than $1 million for having an affair with her manager. The man's ex-wife tapping into a rare law that allowed her to sue for damages that she claims occurred because of the affair. Maggie Vespa on the case that is now playing out in court and on social media.
Tonight, a modern-day Montague feud gone viral.
And it was nothing but lies.
North Carolina TikToker Brene Kennard ordered to pay $1.75 million after a jury found her liable for having an affair with her manager, Tim Montague, characterized under North Carolina law as criminal conversation and alienation of affection. Montague's ex-wife, Akira, suing Kennard for her deliberate interference in the marriage, including wrongful and malicious acts.
What's up, y'all?
Saying in a court filing, Kennard engaged in behavior designed to seduce him, like wearing very short skirts and twirling her hair in a flirtatious manner. The plaintiff's attorneys presented evidence, including sexual videos and texts, a video of Kennard dancing in the couple's home, and another video of her saying she cannot wait to be Mrs. Montague. They argued the TikToker, who had millions of followers, flaunted their relationship on social media.
Hi, guys. That says that my client was telling the truth.
Akira Montague saying as a result of Kennard's actions, she has suffered humiliation, mental and emotional anguish, and injury to her health, adding their actions deprived their 2 young children of a 2-parent household.
She has received justice from losing her husband and the father of her children.
But Kennard argues she had Montague's consent.
She gave her consent. She said it was okay because she knew her marriage was over with and it was done.
Kennard now calling herself Mrs. Montague, saying the couple are married, though NBC News couldn't find any legal documentation supporting that claim. She tells NBC News in a statement, the verdict wasn't fair at all. I fought the lies for 8 days and the jury sought sympathy, not facts, adding it's not over until God says it's over. Tim Montague adding about the TikToker, my wife had no fair shot, especially when defending herself against an entire team of attorneys. As for that $1.75 million payday,
I don't know, but she'll probably never see it.
All right, Maggie joins us now. Maggie, sorry, we were sort of glued to the monitors there. This one's a strange one.
Fair.
Let's back up. You mentioned this is a North Carolina law, but there are other states where people can sue over infidelity?
Yeah, Tom, that's actually true. And for people sitting at home thinking, hold on, you can be sued for having an affair, the answer is yes, indeed. This is a thing. In fact, in a handful of states, including Utah, New Mexico, and Mississippi. And North Carolina, for its part, has actually seen multiple cases, including back in 2021. There was one involving a state senator that was settled out of court. And then back in 2011, a kind of infamous payday, there was one of these cases where a woman was ordered to pay $30 million for wrecking a marriage.
30 million. Wow.
30
okay.
million.
Maggie Vespa, we thank you for bringing us that story. Still ahead tonight in the broadcast, nearly 10 grand in Pokemon and baseball cards swiped from a store in New York, the search for the suspect, and how Tom Brady is caught up in all of it. We'll explain. Plus, it's the official curtain call for the penny. Bye-bye. After more than 2 centuries, a look back at its legacy and the final 1-cent coins just minted. We'll show you. But first, top stories, top moment, and a group of whale watchers in Newport Beach, California, who got the show of a lifetime when an ocean giant made quite the splash. This humpback whale reaching right in front of this boat from Davies Locker Whale Watching, creating one of the best photo bombs of all time. That is incredible. All right, stay with us. More news on the way. All right, we're back now as we closely watch that breaking situation on the Hill. House lawmakers moments away from that final vote to potentially end the historic government shutdown. Ryan Nobles is live on Capitol Hill for us tonight. Ryan, I feel like you've lived there. I feel like you have a tent somewhere there under the rotunda and you're living there. Walk us through what we're seeing right now, what's happening, and then, of course, how long this could take.
My wife and kids feel the same way, Tom, so you're not alone. Yes. So what's happening right now on the House floor is that we are really in the final stages before the final vote to end this government shutdown. And so this is the debate period where both sides have the opportunity to kind of say their final words about what they think about this bill, and perhaps even try and convince someone that hasn't made their mind up yet as to how they're going to vote to try and change that mind. Now, the wild card in all of this, and why we don't know specifically when the vote's going to take place, is that both the Speaker and the Minority Leader have the ability to invoke this privilege on the House floor called the Magic Minute, which gives them the opportunity to speak for as long as they want, as long as they hold the floor. And you'll remember that Hakeem Jeffries has used the Magic Minute before during periods of time where there were contentious pieces of legislation on the floor and has spoke for hours, 15, 16, 17 hours. We don't expect that to happen tonight, but we do expect him to give a pretty lengthy speech in opposition to this bill because, of course, Democrats are very unhappy that it does not include any health care reform provisions in it, including the extension of those Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. So we still got a little bit of time here before we get to that final vote, but the lawmakers are hoping that this will all be wrapped up sometime this evening so that President Trump can sign this into law and get the government back open tonight. Tom.
And Ryan, since we're watching the clock with you here live and in real time, do we have any idea when Hakeem Jeffries will start to speak?
We don't know that yet specifically. So we're still waiting to see exactly when he will take that opportunity. And of course, don't forget that not only does the minority leader have that privilege, the speaker does as well. So we could see 2 lengthy speeches from either of them. The speaker, of course, will get the last word before the voting begins.
Yeah, and then we've been talking today a lot about what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein files and the DOJ release. The House subcommittee obviously subpoenaed those documents. That's how they're out. But there has to be this vote now for the discharge of those other documents. And just today, a new member of Congress was sworn in. Walk our viewers through what's going to happen next with that.
Yeah, that's right. Adelita Grijalva, who was the member from Arizona who actually filled the seat of her father, Raul Grijalva. She won that special election at the end of September. But Speaker Johnson refused to swear her in until the government was back open. And so that took place today. She was sworn in at 4 o'clock. She immediately signed the discharge petition, which got it over the 218 signature threshold, which means that the House has to vote on this resolution that would force the Department of Justice to release all the Epstein files. Now, the Speaker had 7 legislative days before he had to bring that bill to the floor, which, given the calendar, especially because we're up against the Thanksgiving Day holiday, would have meant that he didn't have to bring it to the floor until the first week in December. But he just told reporters and confirmed by NBC News in just the last hour that he is prepared to bring that to the floor as soon as next week. So we could see a vote on that discharge petition as soon as next week. And even though it barely creeped over the 218 threshold to force it to the floor through the discharge petition, we're told there could be dozens of Republicans that vote yes on this discharge petition beyond the small handful of Republicans that signed the discharge petition to get it to the floor. Now, once it gets past the House, it's not like the Department of Justice automatically has to hand over those documents. It still needs to go to the Senate, where it would need 60 votes in order to pass. And there's no guarantee that the Majority Leader John Thune will even put it on the floor. So that remains an open question. And then if it were to get that 60 votes in the Senate, it would then have to go to President Trump to be signed into law. Given what we know about Donald Trump's perception of the Epstein investigation, he's called it a Democratic hoax in the past. He's been very upset with his Republican colleagues that they've pushed this investigation forward. It seems very unlikely that he would sign it. So this is a very critical step. It shows that the Epstein saga is not going away, Tom, but it does not mean that we're going to see these documents in the immediate future.
All right, Ryan Noble's covering it all for us, and we, of course, will go back to you once that vote happens or once some major speeches happen. We thank you. Now to power in politics and some New York politics, if you will. An heir to a political dynasty entering the arena. The Kennedy family tree contains a president, a senator, ambassadors, and the current Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK Jr. And now the grandson of President John F. Kennedy, you see the family tree here, Jack Schlossberg, looking to join the long line of public servants announcing his run today as a Democrat for Jerry Nadler's soon-to-be open seat in the House of Representatives, representing New York City. You might know Jack from his social media feed, where he's amassed more than 1 million followers, often criticizing Republicans and even his cousin RFK. Take a look.
Newsflash, Republicans are lying. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, measles cases rise 500% thanks to RFK Loser's policy of not doing anything to stop the problem.
Hey, everybody. I'm really sorry for all the things I said. Not.
All right, veteran New York City politics reporter Jeff Colton from Politico joins us once again. Jeff, always great to have you here.
Thank you.
First, before we get into Jack, talk to me about this district. We know Jerry Nadler, of course, stepping down, but what's the makeup? What part of the city, all that?
Yeah, this is the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side, Midtown, all the way down to 14th Street. I mean, if you are a tourist to New York, you might spend your entire trip in this district alone. This is like the power center of the world, the United Nations, Central Park. This is going to be a crowded and a very expensive race. We're already seeing a lot of candidates and a lot of money being raised.
A lot of interest, too. So I want to put this up for our viewers here because it's clear the pitch that Jack is making here. This photo on social media shows Schlossberg in front of a vintage poster that reads, "Our man Jack," from his grandfather's 1960 presidential campaign. How big of a boost is that family connection? Will it help him in the parts you say of New York City?
It will help. I mean, there's a big question.
But it's Schlossberg, right? It's not Kennedy, so it's a little tough.
You know, he filed with the Federal Elections Commission with his full name, middle name Kennedy included. So I am actually
so that'll be on the ballot.
I think so.
It will be, okay.
I think his full name will be on the ballot, Kennedy Schlossberg. That said, I mean, look, he is launching as John F. Kennedy's grandson. He is not hiding from that fact.
Right.
He is totally using it. Like you mentioned, he's using one of JFK's former campaign posters, that Our Man Jack. I mean, so he's really leaning into it. And frankly, that's because it's kind of all he has. He doesn't have a lot of experience in politics and government. In fact, it's extremely limited. He just has the family name, and he's largely been a student. He's 32 years old. He already has a JD MBA from Harvard. He was kind of traveling the world with his mother, who was a U.S. ambassador to various countries. So among political insiders in the district and among people that vote in Democratic primaries, he's largely considered like almost a joke. Like, what are you doing here? You know, there's already experienced candidates, 3 sitting elected officials that are running for this seat, assembly members and city council members, as well as some other esteemed people. So,
but we've talked about this. You've mentioned this, the Mamdani era, right, where you can sort of survive and thrive and really explode on social media. Clearly, that's what he's doing. I'm not a social media expert. I don't know if people are buying into it, if it feels a little forced, or if people love it. I mean, do we know yet?
Schlossberg told, I think, NBC earlier today, he said, you know, social media is toxic, but I've found a way to breathe the air. I loved that. And it's true. He's leaning into that. I mean, he is not having this serious politician persona. He's kooky.
Do the demographic makeups, though, of Manhattan and the districts you talked about, you know, or the areas, the neighborhoods, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, is it the same as all of New York City with all of the young people that came out from Mamdani? That's the question, right?
I'm going deep in my memory here, so I might be wrong. I believe this is the oldest district in New York, the oldest average population.
You're right.
And I mean, but the Kennedy name in that case probably helps more than the social media savvy. So
yeah, and then as far as political experience, debates, things like that, does he have any of that, or is that all going to be kind of new to him?
I think it's going to be all new to him, and that's, you know, that's true of a lot of candidates. I mean, look, this is Congress. It's not mayor of New York City, where we saw the New Yorkers here choose somebody that didn't have that much experience. So, like you said, it's the Mamdani era, and it's harder to predict who voters will support.
Yep. Jeff Colton, you can read him in Politico always. Jeff, always great to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you. That a Top Stories news feed, and we begin with a new announcement just in from the FAA on those nationwide flight reductions. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying the government-ordered flight cancellations will freeze at 6% of flights, adding that there has been a dramatic slowdown in the number of air traffic controllers calling out sick amid the government shutdown. Duffy has said those cancellation orders would reach 10% by Friday and had warned they could have reached as high as 20%. And a Baltimore police officer is now facing an attempted murder charge after that viral video appearing to show him trying to chase someone down with his cruiser. Here's that footage from last month. You can see Officer Robert Parks behind the wheel chasing a man through the grass and into the street. Parks turned himself into police today. If convicted, he could face up to 65 years in prison. Here in New York City, police say nearly $10,000 worth of Pokemon and baseball cards were stolen from Tom Brady's new card vault store. They're now on the lookout for this person in the surveillance video. Police say the suspect tried to buy merchandise, but their credit card was declined. Then the person allegedly messed with the machine without the employee knowing and was able to walk out with the cards without ever paying. All right, 3 original Bob Ross paintings just sold for more than $600,000 at auction. And all of that money set to go to public TV stations hurt by cuts in federal funding. He painted some of the works on his famous show, The Joy of Painting. The auction house says they're the first of 30 pieces of art by Bob Ross being sold to help support public broadcasters. Okay. Now to the incredible light show dazzling the sky across the country. Americans as far as south as Florida got a rare glimpse of the northern lights, painting the sky in spectacular greens and pinks. A severe geomagnetic storm is behind the stunning display. Here's NBC's Emily Aketa.
Overnight, brilliant shades of red, green, and purple painted the sky, from San Francisco Bay to farmland in Wisconsin. Here's a pilot's view over Chicago. Awe-inspiring auroras even stretching unusually far south.
My husband just woke me up because apparently there's northern lights in Florida tonight.
thanks to the extreme intensity of a geomagnetic storm, when the sun blasts out charged particles at several million miles an hour that bombard Earth's magnetic field. But it's not all about the beauty shots. Experts say these cosmic storms have the potential to disrupt electrical grids, satellites, and GPS communications. It even forced Blue Origin to postpone a spacecraft launch today. But for most, the impacts will be limited to stunning skies.
It's kind of a spiritual feeling, kind of almost teary, because it's so beautiful.
Something this grandmother and grandson got to experience together.
She's always talked about it, and being able to fulfill something like that for her was just like, it's priceless.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
All right, we thank Emily for that one. I want to bring in our good friend, NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns tonight. Bill, seeing the northern lights, so beautiful. But this far south is rare. I mean, I can't remember hearing about that in Florida. Break down the science behind it all.
All right, so the sun has been very active lately. We get these eruptions on the sun from time to time. Sometimes they point at Earth, sometimes they don't. And just the last couple of days, we've had 3 different ones. So we actually have a satellite. NOAA, our scientists, actually are always watching the sun, because sometimes these can actually be harmful to our communications devices, to our power grid. So you see that flare right there? That's actually the eruption taking place on the sun. And then we get an idea of how fast it's traveling, what direction it's pointing at, and we know if it's coming here. So it takes about 36 to 48 hours once they explode on the sun to get to Earth. And this geomagnetic storm, they give them grades. They predict if they're going to be like a G1 to like a G5. 5's like the top of it. If we had a 5, we'd probably lose power. We don't like that. This one was projected to be a 4 this evening. So that's really high in the scale. So for people that's on your bucket list to see the aurora, everyone was very excited. Now, last night, we had this one hit. There's actually 2 that kind of combined and hit. This here is the 3rd one, and this is the one that's going to be traveling at us as we go throughout the night tonight. And everyone's been waiting for this one to arrive, because the scientists were telling us tonight was going to be the big show. Well, last night turned out to be a little bit of a surprise. It wasn't supposed to be top of the line, almost as good as last May, and it ended up, being high on the scale, seen as far south with cameras as Florida. Exceptional, almost like once in a lifetime stuff. And so everyone all day today, anyone that missed it last night, Tom, has been asking that question. Is it going to happen again?
Yeah, so I want to ask you tonight what happens. I mean, can you see it again?
So, unfortunately, predicting space weather is not like predicting weather on this planet. It's not as good. We don't have the instruments. It's kind of like a newish type science. And so far, we have been hit by this, this latest geomagnetic impulse has hit Earth. It started later this afternoon, but so far, it's been deflecting off our magnetic shield. It hasn't been penetrating down into it and giving us the great auroras. So we need that to flip, and also you need clear skies. In just the last hour, it's flipped from positive to negative. We need negative to see it. So I've just started seeing pictures out of Michigan. So the line is further north. You're not going to see it in the South Lake last night. But if you're anywhere from, say, the Great Lakes, the northern plains with those clear skies, go outside. Use your camera. You're probably not going to see it with your eye, Tom, but use your camera, and you'll probably see some pink glow on the horizon. Just make sure you're facing north.
Okay, good to know. We appreciate those instructions, Bill. We appreciate it. Now to another historic moment today in Philadelphia. The U.S. Mint there producing the last ever penny. 6 months after the Trump administration announced it would phase out the 1-cent coin due to production costs. NBC's Liz Kreutz has more.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1. Tonight, after more than 230 years in circulation, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia pressing the last ever American penny.
We're saying goodbye to the penny today.
U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach on hand for the historic moment as production of the 1-cent coins officially comes to an end. The final 2 pennies going up for auction.
It's still legal tender, and we have over 300 billion of them in circulation.
Earlier this year, President Trump calling the coin wasteful, as the cost to produce just 1 penny is now almost 4 times its face value.
The penny is gone.
For years, it's been a hotly debated issue. Nightly News did this report way back in 1990 about the first congressional bill attempting to eliminate the ill-fated coin.
When we put a few pennies on the sidewalk, no one bothered to pick them up.
But despite its growing irrelevance, the abrupt death of the penny has left some banks and businesses scrambling.
Let's say that you go to a store and the cost is $5.53. You're paying in cash.
Yep.
What do you tell the customer?
So right now, the vast majority of our members are going to round that up to the nearest nickels.
Retail trade groups now urging Congress to establish a national standard for rounding cash transactions.
But tonight, many just saying goodbye.
We're going to have a moment of mourning.
Sharing their thoughts for a penny.
And Tom, another big question people have is, should I be saving my pennies now that they're going away? Are they all of a sudden going to be worth more? Experts say not necessarily. So you can go ahead and use them. They are still going to be in circulation for a while since there are still so many pennies out there. But with no more being minted, the U.S. Treasury Department hopes this is going to save them about $56 million a year. Tom.
Still ahead tonight, guests forced to check out early after a hotel chain abruptly goes under. We'll explain what happened. Stay with us. Now to Top Stories Global Watch, starting with new video of a deadly plane crash in the country of Georgia. You can see the Turkish military plane spiraling as it falls out of the sky. The country's defense minister says all 20 people on board were killed. The flight was headed from Azerbaijan to Turkey when it crashed yesterday. Investigators are now trying to figure out how this happened. And thousands of people in Taiwan evacuating as a powerful storm battered parts of the island. Video shows entire neighborhoods flooded and homes destroyed, crews carrying out rescues in the water. So far, officials say the storm has left more than 50 people injured. This is the same weather system that killed dozens in the Philippines a few days ago. And hundreds of bagpipers in Australia coming together to set a new world record. Take a listen. That was AC/DC's It's a Long Way to the Top. The song belted out by more than 370 pipers, breaking the previous record set in 2012. Thousands of people packed in to see the performance. Organizers say the oldest piper in the crowd was 98 years old. Next tonight, to the sudden shutdown of the short-term rental company Sonder. The chain filing for bankruptcy after a deal with Marriott was abruptly cut short. Guests asked to leave rooms overnight and employees blindsided by news they were losing their jobs. Ellison Barber has this one.
Tonight, hotel guests left stranded and caught in a travel nightmare.
We have a horror story that just happened to us today.
Minjin Chin and Kevin No are in the process of moving apartments in New York City. The travel content creators say they plan to stay at a Sonder property for 2 weeks. They paid in full and then got this email.
We got the email Sunday. First off, it was like, is this news even real?
The news, very real. The short-term rental company that promised visiting would feel more like living.
We call it a Sonder.
Cutting everyone's stay short.
We just got evicted from our hotel.
We're basically moving to another hotel right now.
They're saying they can't help us.
Sonder announcing they filed for bankruptcy 1 day after Marriott terminated a licensing agreement with the company.
What current guests learned is that they had, in some cases, less than 24 hours to vacate.
In a press release, Sonder's interim CEO says the company had unexpected challenges with tech integration and a sharp decline in revenue.
What is your advice to customers who aren't sure what to do here?
My advice to customers would be to reach out to your credit card company and to try to contest any sort of amount that you paid without having those services been received. Secondly, it would be to reach out to Marriott, both at a general corporate level and also at your property.
In a statement, Marriott says they will support guests currently staying at Sonder properties and those with upcoming reservations.
It was very stressful, kind of very hectic, and it was definitely not something that we had planned for.
Sonder did not respond to NBC's request for an interview, but customers are not the only ones who were affected.
There's thousands of us now that don't have a job going into the holidays.
Sonder employees were too. One posting this video online showing a property in New York with a sign reading, "Notice of Closure."
How we found out was Google.
Ebony Rivera worked for Sonder as a front desk hospitality agent for a little more than a year. She said she found out she'd been fired through posts on the internet and alerts in the Marriott app.
Some people found out from guests. We'll get paid out for any hours worked, PTO, things like that. Because of the financial things that are going on within the company, they could not offer severance at all, and we would have to apply for unemployment.
Ebony and her husband both worked for Sonder. They have 2 kids, a 9-year-old and a 5-month-old.
Obviously, everybody has bills. We were expecting, to have some type of Christmas, kind of looking slim on the holidays for things.
And the couple we spoke to, they say they booked and paid for a new accommodation on their own. They tell us they don't know when or if they'll get refunded for their Sonder booking. We reached out to Marriott to ask them about some of their specific concerns. So far, we haven't heard back. But on their website, Marriott is telling customers with Sonder reservations, and I'm quoting here, to contact your credit card issuing bank to initiate a refund request. They go on to say any refunds will be processed on the card which the prepayment was processed. Tom?
Ellison Barber, we thank you. When we come back, if you think you're in good shape right now, meet the 80-year-old grandmother who just swam, biked, and ran her way into the Ironman history books. She joins Top Story next.